Absolutely. Let's also bring in our crime correspondent here, Salim. Salim, in fact, we must tell our viewers that we did invite all the service providers who operate out of Chennai. None of them agreed to come on the show. Obviously, they didn't want to face embarrassing questions or the tough questions, but we must make the point that we did invite them to be part of the show. All of them declined. Salim, what did they tell you off the record? Also, what did the police tell you about the role of service providers? Do they actually try to pass the buck on to the retailers? Are they trying to do a Pontius Pilate in this case by washing their hands off?
Yes, Sanjay, when contacted, the service providers washed their hands off, saying we are not responsible, only retailers are responsible, because they are the one who are getting certificates, ID proof from the customers and issuing them a SIM card. When the same issue was raised with the cyber cops in Chennai, they very clearly say, that service providers are responsible. The reason, they have chaired 8 meetings so far with the service providers. They have given them guidelines, and they have very clearly instructed them on how to go about the sale of SIM cards. But the cyber cops say that they are disappointed. So far, the service providers have not responded well. They are turning a deaf ear. The cyber cops very clearly say that it is now time for the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, the licensing authority, should step in and warn all these service providers who are selling SIM cards in petty shops. The cyber cops say that SIM cards are not a product to be sold in petty shops. These SIM cards are very sensitive, and considering the security threat, the cyber cops very clearly say that service providers are responsible.
All right. Thank you very much, Salim. Let's go back to Dr. Senthil Velan. Dr. Senthil, now, when it comes to panic, do you think service providers should regulate bulk SMSs, bulk text messages? What if, let's say, 500 SMSs are sent by an individual, which are communally sensitive and which could lead to a law and order problem, or defamatory SMSs sent about people? Do you think their antenna should go up whenever bulk SMSs are sent, and aren't they in a sense vicariously liable?
Yeah, we the law enforcers would be happy, but again it boils down to the invasion of the privacy of the who is sending the SMSs, and we need to balance both, considering the security aspects and the freedom of speech and expression of the person who sends the whatever SMS. But of course, we do have a specific clause in case we are able to fix the person who is sending the whatever defamatory or something which is anti-national, something which is anything which is illegal. And there are steps in the existing laws to take action against people who send such SMSs.
All right, that's an interesting point, Dr. Senthil. Mr. Rajan, if I can bring you in here again as a consumer expert, how can, for instance, when it comes to a defamatory SMS, how can a service provider actually allow their platform to be used, shut their eyes and say no under the cover of invasion of privacy? I mean, for other things, they don't really talk about privacy when it comes to illegal tapping of telephones. But when it comes to something like this, under the garb of actually privacy, they try to wash their hands away.
Yeah, because they're taking the easy way out. You know, the whole problem with most of the service providers.
It's business for them, right?
Busy chasing numbers. Yeah, it's absolutely essential for the service provider to monitor, and wherever he finds this, he should immediately report this to the cops that so and so is doing it, and you need to, come down on such persons heavily, and not only that, publicize these things. What's happening is that so many crimes of this type are happening, and people are getting away because nobody seems to be knowing. I am saying that it is important for anybody who is caught, his mug should be flashed on a paper by the service provider saying that so and so was misusing the facility which he had, and therefore
you can see that mug on the television screen there. In fact, one of the accused persons.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am not able to see it. I mean, I'm calling from outside, so I'll see it later probably.
Yes, but that's go ahead, Mr. Rajan. That's an interesting point you made, that you should publicize them. Have a rogues gallery.
Absolutely, absolutely right.
All right.
And I think any service provider who's got more such mugs coming up, that service provider should also be pulled up, because that service provider therefore not doing their due diligence which is required before you issue SIM cards.
All right. Mr. Rajan, I'm tempted to tell you what an idea, Sirji. If I could go back to Dr. Senthil Velan. Dr. Senthil Velan, what should a person do? I mean, for the benefit of all our viewers, what should a person do, an average viewer watching this show do if they get inappropriate calls or SMSs, either defamatory or obscene or threatening SMSs? What should they do?
Inappropriate calls or SMSs. I think there's several ways of handling things. One thing is probably you can go to the nearest police station and give a complaint, and we do have the legal provisions to follow it. I would say that normally inappropriate calls or SMSs, it comes for maybe a few times, and the person who sender also waits to see what the receiver responds, in what manner the receiver responds. In case they ignore it, maybe that will be the best option. A few times maybe they can ignore it. Of course, they do have the option of complaining immediately. And most of the offenders who've been involved in such cases, their modus operandi is, in case a person responds, and maybe it happens to be a lady or whatever, and they tend to repeat the same SMSs and maybe the calls again and again, and that probably prolongs the interaction between the sender and the receiver. Probably they can ignore it for maybe a few times, and then a normal offender, he stops following it up. So either they can do that, or probably they can come straight and give a complaint to the police, and we'll follow it up with the existing laws.
All right. If I can go back to Mr. Kumar there. Mr. Kumar, as a subscriber, as a user, mobile phone user, what would you do? I mean, would you believe in the dictum,
Yes,
the dogs bark but the caravan passes on, and ignore such things? But many say that when you ignore such messages, or either defamatory or obscene messages, and most people would advise you, why go down to their level, just ignore it. Their purpose is only to disturb you or to distract you. But that actually, inaction in many ways actually emboldens such criminals from doing this, emboldens them to continue doing this.
Yeah, Sanjay, you are absolutely right. As a true citizen, I should put my complete right to the police department. I should inform them about the obscenity. I should also take the service provider to the task. Without them, where do I get all these messages? It is their duty to stop it. Every cell phone user, average user, should get the courage and be bold enough to catch the people who are sending obscene and also the harassing messages of SMS. This is the part and parcel duty of every user, and this awareness should be created through this program, particularly to the ladies, because fearing their identification, 99% of the ladies, they just ignore it and keep on suffering silently, and they are humiliated to the maximum extent. So this is a very good program we have done. This awareness should be brought out to everybody, and every cell phone user should take the courage to report this matter directly to the police. This is my view, Sanjay.
All right. Thank you very much. We're completely out of time, but thank you very much, Dr. Senthil Velan. Thank you, Mr. Rajan, for joining us and giving us the consumer's point of view. Also, Mr. Kumar and our crime correspondent, Salim. That's all the time we have for this particular discussion, but there's a lot more coming up in this 1 hour wheel with Natasha Doraisamy. Don't go anywhere. If you ever have to touch your remote, let it only be to increase the volume on your TV sets. Stay tuned.